Hi, and welcome to another episode. On today's episode, this thing, it died. It was only recently that I fixed it, and here we go again. Now, it is completely dead. Dead as in nothing lights up whatsoever. Ugh. So, as good or bad as this was, what could I do to mitigate this issue and ensure that the business is continuing as usual? I can always throw more money at it, but obviously I first checked the fuses and everything, but I haven't really dug deeper into the problem. So, having the experience with the Chinese machines, the generic no brand machines, in cutting with the Graphtec and the other one, whatever the name for that machine is, I figured I know that these exist, and at the time the ideal guillotine did cost us 1.8 grand. So this delivered with no manual clamp, with obviously the automatic cutting and the digital measurement set rather than the analog input where you twist the handle, it moves the back gauge and so on. This is delivered 1.4 grand. And obviously the restrictions at the time were that it had to fit into the office. As you can imagine, this is not the office, therefore I decided to go for this being slightly heavier. This is roughly 125 kilos versus the 80 of the ideal. I decided that this, if it works, will be 1.4 grand investment that will potentially have easy to replace parts and readily available. I've used this thing for a couple of times already, and I can definitely say that the scales, the whole information that you put is fairly spot on. It cuts where you tell it to. There are a few setbacks, as in the quality of the materials, let's say. That would not be happening on ideal, but being just a cover, I don't care. It does not affect cutting. Therefore, it might as well be made out of paper. I don't care. Now, of course, even this whole thing is kind of wobbly and made out of very thin material. But again, it does not affect the cutting. Therefore, I don't care. But what it does do, it cuts. It cuts well, and it does so precisely where I tell it to. Therefore, it does the job, and it's well worth its money. I mean, the doors that do that, kinda, I don't care. It's not cutting in it. There are a few bits inside, and that's all I wanted to do. To be not just a space occupier, but to actually hold something in. But as far as the technology goes, it works. That being said, obviously I had many more choices than just go with plain this machine, but my main reasoning for choosing the first machine, besides the space implications that we have, and the current machine, I went with the most basic setup that I could. Therefore, I would learn from the very beginnings, because imagine if at the time, me knowing nothing of the guillotines, what they do, how do you operate them, what's the maintenance and so on, what would I be doing with a huge machine, a several 100 kilos machine that has the automatic feed, the air support table at the front, the programmable displays and everything like that. I would simply be lost in the options, and it would be harder for me to learn the technology. Now, as we've practiced on the most basic machine, and now we've stepped up to the digital gauges that's ensuring the paper is cut even more precisely than it was before, I do believe that we would be ready to do the next step up and get the machine that has a screen that you could put manually the programs in. However, with the current setup, the machine that we have, the Konica Minolta, it likes to shift the print. So from time to time, the whole image, as I'm adjusting it for certain types of paper, the image itself will shift to adjust to be aligned with the front and back images, and the images will shift. Therefore, the initial cut that I'm doing can be, let's say, at 404 millimeters, or it could be a 403 millimeters. Therefore, if you do all of the cuts based on that, the end cut, the very last section, will be off cut by quite a big margin, and the industry standard bleed of 3 millimeters would not suffice. And therefore, just strictly speaking, relying on a program straight away, I'm not sure the current technology that we have is sufficient enough for us to perfectly just blind rely on that. Obviously, the guillotine, the manual one like that, or even with programs, is not the pinnacle of the current technology. For example, you could have a Duplo machine that would be reading the barcodes of the pages, and it would be cut into whatever the cutters are set to, therefore eliminating the manual labor pretty much almost entirely, as all you do is you load up the stack of printed pages and you set the machine to run, given the blades are set within the given the sizes needed, obviously. But unfortunately, this being not even a curio press, I do believe the lineup for the digital printers is currently called for the Konica Minolta. This is still one of the earlier models, the BizHub. Yes, it's a digital press, but it's an older one, and it does have the registration marks, but it does not have the barcode, and that's what you would need in order to utilize a more modern machine, because obviously the cutters, the automatic cutters, evolved from the machinery. Therefore, for the machines to be able to use them, it would have to be the machines that can actually manufacture such barcodes. Therefore, unfortunately, this is not an option for us. However, the things might change as we go forward. Speaking of that, I do have a plan on how to accommodate all of the equipment under one roof, although it might take up to half a year for us to implement that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, obviously. So hopefully, if in case you're wondering whether to go with the Chinese manufacturing, the generic of brands or no names, or to go for an older but known to be reliable brands, I'd say in some cases, obviously your experience may vary, but in some cases it might just be worth it, because the same machine that with the same capabilities, and speaking of that, the largest we could cut was the SRA3 on the older guillotine. This is this size, and this one can cut the SRA2, therefore twice the size of the sheet. Obviously we can't print that, but by and large a paper and cutting it into half would save some costs for running this machine. Therefore, sorry, I haven't finished speaking of the ideal. The same machine with the same capabilities as this machine, but branded ideal, it would cost me, I want to say 5 times more, 6 times more, because they are quite expensive. It would be in easily 5 digits, I do believe so, especially if it's new. And hopefully, in case you were wondering whether you want that, or you might need that, or you don't have a deeper understanding of the technology behind the printing and manufacturing industry, hopefully this provides you with at least some insights. I will be doing a Konica and digital printer specific video in near future, hopefully. But as far as this goes, laser printer, you print, you cut, you deliver. As simple as that. And now we have a brand new machine to help us with the precision and the size of manufacturing that we can make. that's it for this episode. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.